Piaget's theory about individuals in early adulthood is actually not one that he covered in depth. As you remember from previous uh, lectures on Piaget, he did a lot of his observations on his children and grandchildren. So he seems to stop at a point in adolescence, and he also argues that not everybody reaches that stage. Some people are okay with stopping there, but there are some that are called that are not necessarily happy with Piaget's stoppage of this and here, and they don't agree with him on everything, and they have some steps and some theories that are called post-formal operational. And post-formal theorists are those who seem to disagree with Piaget at it being the last stage that we reach during adolescence. William Perry is one of them, and he is again known as a post-formal theorist. One of the cognitive stages of development that is post-formal is dualism, and this is considered to be the least mature of them all. And this is where we view things as either right or wrong, positive or negative, black or white. Very, very extreme. And we often lack understanding of the various gray areas that may exist in between. And we also seem to be individuals who feel that authority figures may have the answers to all our problems. They're likely to follow an authority figure, be that a politician, be that a doctor, be that a professor, and they may engage oftentimes in what's known as confirmation bias, which is to only listen to those who agree with their points of view. If you find that somebody doesn't agree with you, then we often cut them off, and this leads to, again, this risky business of confirmation bias, which doesn't allow us to think outside of the box. In order for us to transition into the next stage, which is recommended and expected and hoped for everyone, it often comes when our thinking style is challenged and proved inadequate. But that often comes from, again, an authority figure, someone who we rely heavily on. And this is risky business. This is dangerous because if that authority figure we admire so much doesn't do it, then we run the risk of staying there. And this is believed to be the reason why oftentimes maybe an adolescent or a young adult will not stop supporting their favorite celebrity, actor, singer, despite all the troubles and issues they may get caught up in. One of the issues that was often questioned among young people was that they did not agree with what Kanye West did once at some award ceremony for Taylor Swift. But yet, despite not agreeing with him and thinking he was a jerk, they continued supporting him by buying his music and other things. So dualism, again, would require that we be able to put them aside and think of the more meaningful and deeper things behind this character. Relativism is the second stage. It's a little bit more mature than the previous one. And this is where instead of just believing black and white, positive and negative, we think that all truth is just a matter of opinion. So you're entitled to your truth and I'm entitled to my truth. However, they often look down on people who challenge their opinions, and they may view them as judgmental. They may view them as people who don't know what they're talking about. So notice that earlier I said that they are entitled and they feel that my truth may be different than yours, but we're not necessarily comfortable with my truth being different than yours. We seem to say, okay, you're in your right, but we don't fully embrace that. Oftentimes we may make use of some authority figures to support their opinion, and oftentimes it's not even good authority figures. They may say something, well, I lived this way, or my neighbor who has gone through life experienced this, as though that were to support their views heavily. In order for us to transition to a more mature point, it is important that role models challenge our viewpoints. So not necessarily someone that may not agree with us, but maybe a role model, someone they look up to, and that we may think in different terms because we are being taken out of our comfort zone, and it's okay because it's our role model. Commitment is the highest stage of post-formal cognitive maturity, and we find that this is where we realize that not all thinking is equally valid. We realize that it's not as simple as we were told it was. We realize that authorities make mistakes. We realize that parents make mistakes. We realize that our friends are also human, and we understand that the ambiguity and the uncertainty are unavoidable. They're part of life. We will never get to a perfect point in our lives, and we learn that that's okay. We learn that we are able to make decisions. We are able to live with the circumstances and the consequences of our decisions. And we often, at this point, commit to these positions that often reflect our intellect. So we make decisions based on reason and the evidence that's available to us. But again, it reflects who we are. And we see this from maybe two different political views, the dominant political views here in our nation, where both Democrat and Republican, though they may disagree fiercely on different things in there, their argument is that the evidence that's been provided for them is what makes sense to them. And even though it may be the same evidence, it may be interpreted differently. People in commitment level are open to challenge, and they're often able to keep an open mind about what they need to hear or what is a pressing issue. And these individuals here are also more likely to accept responsibility for their actions in their environment. Someone who is at this level often is comfortable with saying that he's sorry, with saying that she's sorry, and they take full responsibility for it. Individuals who are not there yet, they may say, I'm sorry, but then they justify it by saying, but everybody else is doing it, so why not me? So important to see that commitment is just, it's made up of several things, and all the others. It's not just one quality or characteristic. As for post-secondary education, which we hope that often gives us the skills to be able to get to commitment, the highest level of cognitive maturity, it's not something that is available for everyone, but it has become more necessary in recent generations. It's not unusual to hear that someone's grandparents may have done well for themselves and buying a house and maybe going on vacation and buying cars despite not having a high school diploma. We now live in a society where competition is fierce, and we are competing with people who have advanced degrees, so it is a necessity now to have this type of education. This has a lot of benefits and often associated with a lot of developmental outcomes, higher moral reasoning and cognitive social responsibility, psychological satisfaction and states of mind are also typically higher. And we also see that the college students are no longer as what they used to be called traditional. The traditional student before used to attend college full-time right after high school, and they did not work. They just went to school. That was their responsibility. Non-traditional students are those who either attend college part-time or delay enrollment after high school graduation. And in addition to that, they work. They work and they hold jobs while going to school. And we find that some people are arguing that maybe it should be the other way around, that the non-traditional students should now be called traditional, and that the traditional would now be called the non-traditional. Nonetheless, they're just focusing on the tradition from the past. Maybe in the future that change will be made.